So I'm back with a video today, and it's basically about the news that everyone's been seeing in the UK in the last 3 days. I think today's the third day. So basically what happened in Woolwich in London, for anyone who doesn't live in England, was that two males were in a car in Woolwich. They drove to, I think, around the barracks area in Woolwich, and there was a soldier wearing a Help for Heroes hat, and they basically got out of the car and started hacking the guy. I think there was a few weaponry, but I know that they did have an axe of some sort, and I think there was a gun as well. But yeah, they basically just hacked him to death. He was 25 and a soldier, obviously, if I didn't mention that. And then afterwards, witnesses kind of started to come around, and it was filmed, and I think a few women actually did try and stop the perpetrators, the murderers, from, I think, continuing to hack the guy. So they kind of cradled him as he was dying. So that's basically the whole story. So the two males were identified as having like motives based on Islamic extremism, terrorism basically, and they have political aims, and their point was that it was an eye for an eye for all the Muslims who have been treated terribly by Britain or the Western world. I assume Britain mostly. So that's kind of the background of the story. I mean, the victim did die, and the two males are now in hospital, and I think after the events it's just been crazy. Like, if you live in London, it's just been nuts. So there's been kind of an uproar against Muslims. I mean, again, it's never really died down, as we know from the last few years, with terrorism kind of coming, you know, into being more with the attacks in New York and R1 in 2005 or 2007. So yeah, so we've just been seeing awful attitude towards Muslims, and I myself, I'm a Christian, as I'm sure everyone knows, and I mean, for anyone, regardless if you're human, the attention, the negative attention they've been getting is appalling, very appalling, and to me it's really opportunistic racism, and the people kind of at the front line of this are called the EDL, and English Defence League, I think, that's what it's abbreviated for, and so they've been around for a while. They've only just stepped to the forefront because of this, but they've been around for a while, and basically they kind of dislike Muslim people, and they sort of wait. It's almost like they wait until there's some sort of criminal attack, and then as soon as it involves a Muslim, they're there to say, oh look, we told you that, so they're all evil, they're all terrorists, etc, etc. And as I said, it's very opportunistic racism. It's almost as if racism is, in terms of it being so in your face, is so like mellow until something happens, and then literally you just see people's true colours, and it's just disgusting. Vile is really the word, and people will say, oh no, I'm not racist, but no, you are. You really are. Muslim related attacks in the UK have come up to less than 100 people, 100 victims, and of course that's way too many. I'm not saying that that's a small amount. That's still a human life. That's awful to hear about. At the same time, the IRA have been responsible for at least, there's more than this, at least 1,800 deaths alone in the UK in recent years, and that's not even counting the soldiers that they have killed as well. These are just people who are civilians, and I don't see the EDL chasing after the IRA on St. Patrick's Day. Like, I really don't. This is what I mean. It's so racist. It's so basically based on colour and based on religion, and I get, like, I know that, of course, I know that some IRA crazy people are going to comment on this. Trust me, I have read about Ireland. I've studied them for many years, and I completely understand where they're coming from. I just think that their methods are just completely ridiculous. But I understand because the Irish have suffered, and as have the Muslims. And I think a lot of people think that Islam is synonymous with extremism or terrorism. It's really not. It's really not. I mean, I have a few Muslim friends, and also from what I've read in the last few days, and from what I've known for a while, terrorism has no basis. Extremism and terrorism have no basis in Islam. And obviously, of course, I understand it's the way people interpret it, but that's the thing, it's interpretation. And the problem is not religion, the problem is actually extremism. That's literally the be all and end all of it. I mean, we only have to look into the past couple of years. I mean, has it even been, what, 100 years since we had the KKK, and they were claiming to be Christians, and that Jesus was white, and they were all very white Christian supremacists. I mean, you know, they didn't read the bit of the Bible that said all men are equal. There's absolutely no if or ands about it. It's literally just hatred, and it's extremism. It's not religion at all. I mean, you have to look at the Norway killings that are a few years ago. I think his name's Anders Breivik. I hope I pronounced that right, Anders Breivik, and that was based in the Norway killings of 69 people, mostly teenagers. He was a Christian, and the people that he killed were not Muslims. Nothing about the killing had to do with Muslims or Islam at all, but it was extremism. At the end of the day, he felt that that was his duty, and he was not a Muslim at all. So you kind of have to see that there are extremists out there who are not Muslim at all, and it's basically the hatred of the heart. If you have hatred, whatever kind of religion that you're practicing is completely redundant after. And you have to remember all the many shootings that we've had in America in schools, and none of those well, you could say they're serial killers because they've killed more than one person at a particular time. Those serial killers were Muslim at all. So you have to start realising that it's not Islam that's the problem, it's extremism. I don't know how many times I have to repeat myself. And the funny thing is, after the Norway killings, after the KKKs, after even the deaths in all of the American high schools and universities, there's never once been such an uproar or an uprising against white males or white Christians who were the perpetrators of these attacks. Do you know what I mean? Like, after the Norway killings, there's never been an uprising to go and hate every white male. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? And of course, if anyone's, I mean, if you live in the UK, I'm sure you'll be aware of the two main cases, Damilola Taylor and Stephen Lawrence. And Stephen Lawrence's case took over 18 years to solve. Like, not solve, it was solved, but for the justice to actually come out. And Damilola Taylor took, I think, at least more than 5 years as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. And these were both racially motivated attacks, racially provoked murders, and after those murders we didn't see an uprising of black people having such racial hate for the working class white men who, you know, working class white men were the ones who actually killed Stephen Lawrence. And I think in the same case of Damilola Taylor as well. So there was no kind of, you know, kind of protest in racial hatred against all white working class men, because there is a realisation that it's not all working class white men that are racist. Of course, that's ridiculous to even think so. It's just so sad that there's a double standard because someone is of a darker skin colour. As soon as someone of a darker skin colour who claims to be Muslim and perpetrates an attack, suddenly now there's an excuse for this opportunistic racism. Just literally just like a pot of ignorance. Disgusting attitude comes out of it, and it just really doesn't make any sense. A lot of people say that racism is taught and it's not something that you're born with, and I completely understand where these people are coming from, but at the same time you have to think some of the most educated people ever are actually racist. And that's the funny thing. It's like they're not taught to think that all men are equal. They have all the knowledge in the world of books and literature, etc., but they're not taught to love every single person that you meet. And you know, I mean, if you look at UKIP, sorry for all you American viewers, UKIP is a kind of a governmental party in England, and they basically completely stand against immigration, and they want to stop immigration in the UK if they come into power for at least 5 years, and basically make it very, very difficult for people who already live here that aren't British to get jobs and permits, etc, etc. And the people in charge of UKIP are totally educated. And after the death of Stephen Lawrence, it wasn't until Nelson Mandela came 2 weeks afterwards that you realised how kind of sick this country was, in the sense of, after the murder of Stephen Lawrence, we spent so much time focusing on, oh yeah, the white working class man racist, we need to educate these working class men who are racist, blah blah blah, blah, because it was obviously working class men that did the attack. And the funny thing is, there was racism before that, and we experience it every day. We experience it in education, we experience it in our jobs, we experience it in everyday life. And the funny thing is, when we experience it in everyday life, it's not working class, it's the middle class. The middle class are in charge of education, the middle class are in charge of employment, and yet if someone has an African name, they're less likely to get a job as someone who has an English name, even if they have better qualifications. So we can't keep on peg-holing the white working class man for racism when it's happening every day around us. The fact of using terrorism and murder to achieve a political gain, to me, is just ridiculous and evil, and that's basically where I stand on it. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and let me know your thoughts and comments. I'll subscribe, like, comment, let me know your thoughts, etc, etc. Bye.